All right, I just explained spiritually what that means in my dream, right? House that I don't recognize, but I was in it anyway. Belong to one of them, don't know who. And then my cousin, right? The one owner was the most evil, the second most evil one out of all of them. I've got two cousins that are very severely involved in this cat. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Two cousins that are very severely involved. I have got two cousins that are very severely involved in the occult, and they're very demonic. And the most evil one is this guy, right? But I just feel as if though this guy's evil, this female cousin has exceeded his evil to a certain extent, or maybe it's just because she's focused on me quite a lot, while that other cousin does not focus all of his energy on me that much. So maybe I'm gauging her evil as more because of how much she's concentrating on me. But the cousin guy is just a really bad case. The not cousin, they're both cousins, but the male is horrible against the whole family. He's been stealing the prosperity of the whole family. He's really been just junk statusing the entire family, and so it makes him the king of sorcery. But this chick is definitely the queen in lesser measure. But nonetheless is still quite destructive. She is concentrating on me because we used to be best friends. Alright? This cousin of mine, I remember I told you guys a prophecy about her maybe 3 or 4 a series or chat sessions ago, where I think the name of that particular prophecy or video was, let me actually look for it because I'm pretty sure it's here somewhere. The South African hide it. I'm sorry, you see, Janong, I just looking for this. What in the world under heaven? I'm not gonna just keep looking and looking and looking for this unto oblivion. Oh yeah, she made herself a brute beast, and now sudden death is in pursuit of her soul. Which judgment? The name of the series, I uploaded it maybe like on the 28th of September or 29th, because I tend to upload a day later, right? I called it, She Made Herself a Brute Beast, and now sudden death is in pursuit of her soul. And in this video, I was exposing a judgment that is coming on this cousin. And she has now therefore been re-energized to look at me again, to focus on me again. Her occult organization is seeking the blood of her husband and her child, because after 10 years of involvement in it, almost 10 years or maybe just over 10 years, she is the only member of her cult that has not sacrificed a family member. And the only reason she hasn't prospered to sacrifice a family member is because of my prayers. So she has sacrificed somebody else outside of the family, or a bunch of other somebody else's. I like to call her a murderess because that's what God calls her. She's a murderess because she's killed a lot of people in order to get to where she's at right now. And she's one of those hard knocks. She's involved in blood drinking and whatnot, right? My family members are nasty, but they're not at that level of occult involvement. They consult sangomas, but they don't drink blood and sacrifice people and what have you. We've never had to be that desperate for power because we've never been a poor family. So her desperation to get her to that point, I don't even know what in the world done did it. Her situation is so bad that even her husband wants her, so she doesn't look so bad in the occult, to let me go, right? But her husband does not know that his life is on the line. So their marriage is being strained by his saying, if you want us to see, her husband is the one that introduced her into the occult in the first place, but he does not know how deeply she went, right? And he is busy saying, the case Ega Karabo is embarrassing. Karabo's case is embarrassing. So let Karabo go. Let her go. You got everything that you want, so that attention will no longer be focused on us. But she's caught in between a rock and a hard place because she does not know. The husband does not know. She, according to her occult situation, can't afford to let me go because her occult organization has demanded that she sacrifice human beings that are of her family, because every one of them else has given them a family member and she's the only one. So they're trying to collect on that blood, and they have told her that if your husband and your child do not die, we're gonna come and take you. We're gonna kill you unless you give us somebody of more value. And so essentially they have told her that if she can to sacrifice me, a Christian, both her husband and her child can live as well as her. How did God give me the prophecy about the husband and the kid? I had a dream of the child having a noose around her neck and being dead and alive, dead and alive, dead and alive, dead and alive. It's like she was in and out of life and death. And that was God telling me, this kid's life is in danger. and she's basically dead according to an occult ritual, but intercession can save her. So this noose around her neck rendered her both dead and alive. And then the husband was queuing, almost like on death row, right, to be next after the daughter. So the daughter would have been the first one to die, and shortly afterwards the husband would have followed. And the husband was sitting in some hallway waiting to also be raised me, woke me up and told me, you have to intercede on behalf of the husband and the child. And for me, the hard cry was for the child. The husband, I could not care less about, because of the fact that he even got her involved in the occult in the first place. The noose is coming back to hang him because he got his wife involved in darkness. At the time, it was his girlfriend. He does not know that it's coming back at him. He does not know the depth of darkness that this cousin of mine is involved in, because one of the occult organizations that she had to do, one of the occult rituals she had to do was cheat on him with a sex ritual, with the man that would ultimately become her boss, that would give her some strange promotion that she did not deserve. That's not something that my cousin would have ever confessed to her husband. So her husband does not know. Her husband imagines that all she does is consult Isangoma, and they give her good fortune, or they make her do some strange rituals, cut a chicken, and that's it. He does not know that she's involved in a blood drinking cult, a human sacrifice ritualing cult, something very deep, very heavy, because she could not get to me with just a sangoma. She could not destroy my career. She could not do what she wanted to do with just basic rituals, because I'm a Christian and I was so strong. I was so strong that all of these other rituals that she did, all of these other sangomas that she consulted, were too fluffy to get to me. So ultimately she got introduced to a much deeper level of Satanism, and I don't know how she found this out, who she met that introduced her to this cult, but the first thing they demanded from her, given that all these other rituals failed, was my blood. The first human sacrifice she ever tried to do was of me. I explained in that video what in the world under heaven that cousin did. I woke up in the middle of the night with her on top of my body trying to stab me in a dream, and I wrestled her until I pushed her off. Then I went and I told on her to her dad and my mom, and both of them ignored me. That actually happened in waking life, where I raised the issues with what my cousin was doing, and the family ignored me. This cousin of mine, that was the first human sacrifice ritual she tried. When it failed, because it was the first one ever for her, and they wanted to lure her in, bring her in, basically secure her in this cult. They allowed her to get away with not being able to sacrifice a family member, right? In the beginning, they allowed her to get away with it. When she couldn't take me, they then told her, we want your dad, somebody in your family. And then she first tried to give them her dad. The Lord told me yet again, your uncle is in danger. And so I stood in the gap. He didn't die. The sister was the next one. The sister's in danger. She didn't die because I stood in the gap. The Lord showed me every last one of these rituals, and so I got on my knees and I prayed for them, and they were protected. But because she had not yet sacrificed blood, and they didn't want to lose her as a cult member, they wanted to keep her because she was desperate. They then said, fine, because of this interceding family member of yours, we're going to struggle to get to any of your family members. So therefore you can take anybody else on the outside. So she chose a friend. She chose some guy, okay, that passed away. And that was the first of quite a few other human sacrifice rituals that she did in order to get ahead, okay? And the guy, yeah, he passed away. Ain't no need to describe who he is, because really and frankly, I don't know, it's just not worth it to mention it. It was quite sad. I knew him type thing. He was sacrificed by her. He was the one that was taken out. He was the one that she chose to go for whatever reason, and that is what sealed her in the cult. And for years she's been getting away with killing random strangers, okay? Now they have let her basically not have to take any of her family members. Now they are collecting on what it is that she owes them, because all of them have sacrificed family members, and she's the only one that has not had to cry those kinds of deep tears, only tears of losing a friend and pitching at the funeral of a man you killed type thing. And they told her, hit her with a shock surprise wave just the other day, and said, it's time, we want your daughter and your husband, and if you will not take them out yourself, we are going to take them. And she was like, no, I don't want to give my husband or my child. Come on, is there anything else that I can do? And two of her friends in the occult gave her advice that Christian family member of yours that has been standing in the gap for them, if you can prosper to kill her, will let you get away, will allow you to continue to live in the sunset with your husband and your children, without you having to lose any of those family members. And now this cousin of mine is literally so desperate to end me, so desperate. And because of the fact that I stand in the gap for the family, and God shows me these things so that I can stand in the gap and block deaths from happening, this cousin of mine thoroughly understands, and so too does her cult also understand. I have in the past prevented certain rituals from killing my family members. So what's to stop me now? And so the failure of the rich, first of all, she has not made a decision, or had not, I don't know what's going on right now, as to, you know, whether or not she's prepared to take her and her daughter out. They wanted two of them, both of them, because all of these guys in the cult that she's in have all lost more than one family member, and so they won't even give her just one option. They have told her, we want both. We want two people, and it must be your immediate family. It cannot be auntie or somebody kind of twice removed or whatever. It has to be your immediate. And so the husband does not know, and so the husband has been giving her pressure to let me go, because her husband is thinking, you went and consulted a sangoma and then Karabo's life fell apart. Yet he does not know that it was not a sangoma. She in and of herself became a bit of a sangoma. She's a member of a cult, a very hard, not deep, experienced cult, and in her cult she was able to do a lot of stuff. And the husband does not know what she got involved in, especially considering it involved her partaking in some kind of a sex ritual with another guy. That's what's good. So for those reasons, the husband has been pressurizing her to alleviate their household from embarrassment by letting me go. He's saying, we've gotten all this, we've already regressed her by many years. She lost her degree. She does not have much right now. Even if she were to get a job, it's not going to be much in comparison to you. Just let her go so she's not so embarrassing. Let her go so she's not embarrassing. And she's sitting there nodding while she and her nefarious husband are having this discussion, saying, okay, I'll try to set Karabo free. As if though you're in any position to set me free. I'm already free in Christ, but anyway, they're trying. He does not know that there is a dilemma that she is in from the cult she belongs to, that the husband does not know she is a member of. And that dilemma is that the husband is gonna die and the daughter. If the husband were to find out that she has subjugated, as in this computer, if the husband were to come into the knowledge of the fact that basically her daughter is in danger, his daughter is in danger, and him, he would divorce her in like 5 seconds. He does not know the depth of the occult that she is in. And if he were to find out, especially the danger that he is now in because of it, and as well as his child, his daughter, his firstborn daughter, his life is in danger, he would leave her. She is therefore fighting this by herself, with no support anywhere. And they have told her in her organization, I'm repeating this again, but anyway, it's a shortcut. It's a summary in comparison to the 2-part series that I did. I don't have time, but anyway, let me just try and speak through this really quickly. They have told her that in order to prosper, to kill me, who is a Christian, because they've worked with Christians before in this cult, that she's got to water me down, that she has to annihilate or file away some facet of my Christianity. And then if she can make me a compromised Christian that's fallen, that's stealing, that's fornicating, that's whatever, then she can prosper to kill me. So the first dream that I got of her was of her trying to, sweetly talk to me. But I wouldn't talk to her because nang boa. And then the next dream I got was of her robbing a house and then offering me for free the money that she stole in that house. And then so far as I would take the money, I would be hooked. So basically embracing the ill-gotten gain, me just taking it in my stride. And in the dream I took the money, but when I woke up I knew what it was and I rebuked it, right? She's trying to make me compromise, and she's doing a lot of rituals to make me compromise so that she can finally get to a point where she kills me in order to save her husband and her daughter and herself. The Lord gave me her husband and a daughter to stand in the gap for, and I did that. The Lord has told me that even if I stood in the gap for her, she cannot survive. Because if she survives, her cult organization is going to look at me as the culprit and the perpetrator that keeps on messing with their rituals. And then they're going to focus on me in a way that I cannot afford to be looked at by another cult. I'm already being looked at by one cult in South Africa. God does not want me getting looked at by another one, because I'm already going through a lot. So this cousin of mine, therefore, is facing sudden death. I had a dream of her suddenly waking up in eternity in the darkness. Do you understand? Because if she doesn't die, I die. If she doesn't get taken out of the way, I get inebriated with a lot more attack than I can take in my stride. It's either her or me. So therefore, I'm allowed to stand successfully so in the gap for the husband and the daughter, but not her. Because her survival is an eye that's going to be put on me by her cult because of me disturbing their rituals. This cousin is aware of that, and so she has very desperately been rocking up in my dreams, doing rituals over and over and over again to force me to compromise. Now that you have that context, okay, in my dream, this cousin of mine in this household that I don't know, of the family was I was busy chasing around after her, telling her where to get off. You and your witchcraft, stop your nonsense. And then I was encircled by children I don't know. Yet more of an issue. I don't know my cousin's children, all of them combined. I don't know their kids. For the past 10 years, I've been buried in a hole that they have just watched me suffer in. I live amongst Tortuga. My family members are ritualists in the worst way. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't know their kids. The only kids in the family that I know are my cousin's kids, the ones that are always here in my mom's household. I also know anyone at all that's been here. Like my one of my other cousins' daughter, I know, but she's recently had a son, and I have never seen the kid. But her youngest daughter, I only saw her once when there was an event here, and they came Mochai, and that was the last I ever saw of her. The one that was born when I was still in her life, she only got to know me for the first 4 years of her life, and then 4 or 5 years of her life, and then auntie was gone, nowhere to be found because of all of this persecution type thing. But the rest of them that had kids in my 30s, all of my 30s, I've been in this hole for 9 years. So basically from the age of 29 up until 39, 29 going on 30, up until 39, I've been buried in a hole. And so everybody that's ever popped a baby in this entire season, I don't know their kids. So all of the crutch that were born to these people, again, the kids, become worse versions of their parents. Our generation, my mother's generation, all of their kids knew each other. They made sure they introduced us to each other. But because they're so evil, the generation after them is that much more evil than they are. Now we don't know our own nieces and nephews. Our own nieces and nephews, because of the level of division that has been caused by involvement in the darkness. They have destroyed the family. I like to say my grandmother is probably tossing in a grave right now if she could. They have destroyed the family. Asazani. I didn't attend weddings. I did not attend christenings of babies, even though it's not biblical. I did not attend first birthday shower, birthday parties. I did not attend baby showers. I didn't attend manyalo, weddings, celebrations. Guys, what in the world? I did not attend any of these things, of all of them. While, however, we grew up that tight, like this close, like sofa slashane, tighter than a brother. She was closer to me than even my own older sister. That's how close we are. Yet some of these cousins, I don't know abantwana babo. What kind of rubbish is that? I wonder what they're thinking in their minds every day, mabahlezi njefela in their bodies. Aren't they cringing just by looking at the way that life turned out? Anyway, whatever. So now that I've put that out there, allow me to highlight the crutch of children that I also did not know in the dream, but I understood them to be family members. These children were my nieces and nephews, but I didn't know even one. Not even one. And they all looked like toddler age to preschooler. Toddler to preschooler age. Next part. I need to get to the end of this because I can't miss out on exercise or nibble into my exercise time. It's 19:43 and I gotta be working out by 8:30, so let's just finish this real quick. Toddler age kids and preschooler, and all of these children, in a way that we never were disrespectful to anyone, no matter their socioeconomic standing when we were growing up, thought of me as this rubbish. Like they were so disrespectful to me, and they all looked at me like I was the crazy aunt. The crazy aunt. Yeah. The kids were trained that I have a mental illness. And so therefore they all treated me like lesanya. And I have been disrespected by about 2 or 3 kids in the family to a point where I stopped trying to play aunt to all of them. And the thing that caused these kids disrespect was because their parents speak about me to them a particular way, so that they will never regard me with any level of respect. That's never happened in the generation of my mom. No matter what the socioeconomic standing, or no matter what the relationships between them and their siblings, them and their cousins, they would never allow children to disrespect any grown-up. Nebasanya. They were crazy. In and of themselves, they used to do witchcraft, but they were not nearly as crazy as this generation. They did not even come close. This generation of parents have taught their children to disrespect people based on socioeconomic class. My own little sister treats me like I'm the bubble gum underneath her feet because my mother inspired her to be that way. She's a Generation Z, while I'm a Xennial or Millennial. So I'm much older than my little sister. By 17 whole years am I older than her. But I am literally treated like the scum of the earth. Bubblegum underneath her feet. Right now I am her servant. I clean up every dish that she uses. I am the only person that basically cleans up after everybody. Yeah. and my little sister is allowed to just sit back and do nothing while my mom also does not raise it as an issue. That's the way that it is, mochai. And so, given that that's the state of my life, I have developed a coping mechanism to deal with the disrespect from children. I might love kids, but I avoid too many conversations. I avoid trying to be cute or adorable or asking them questions. So what are you doing in school? Because I understand they don't care for me. They don't care about what I have to say, what I think. Like, even when I talk to them, you can tell that, she's talking. Why is she asking me these questions? That's the way that I'm treated. No one respects me. And because of that mistreatment, I've kept my relations with them, if they're here, very minimal. Hi, how are you? Good, bye. Hi, how are you? Good, bye. Because it hurts to be that disrespected, especially by kids. To be that disrespected, especially by kids. One of the kids of my cousins once told me, if I need money, I should go to the street and beg, because that's what all other hobos are doing. That was told me by a child that at the time was like 11 years old. At the time, he was about 11. So ever since then, I was like, okay, with these kids, like, I'll greet and I'll get out and say bye. That's it. But I will not have more of a discussion with them. I will not say anything. I will not let them respond to me. I will not let them talk to me because I don't want to get hurt. Because even when they speak like that in front of their parents don't jump in and correct them. Their parents don't say, no, how dare you speak like that to your auntie? That is disrespectful. No. If anything, you know who jumped in and corrected his brother? It was the older brother. The older brother was like, hi, boy, this is you. The Garabo is grown. She's an auntie. She's big. You don't talk like that to grown-ups. That another kid corrected him while the mom just sat there. The mom is my peer. The mom is my cousin. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, a kid whose conscience, I guess, spoke volumes. Rather than run with what his family has trained him, he chose to do better. But the same kid that corrected his brother, years later, one time he walked into the kitchen, I greeted, and he just looked at me on some high, like I stank. I was like, my goodness, you even got to him. To the one kid that had a soundness in his mind. So I stopped trying with the kids. I just greet and I move on, in and out. I no longer try to do more with this family. Why? Because it's Tortuga. The family, the elders have taught the kids to be rubbish children. So remember how in the beginning part of me having this discussion, I spoke about how it is that a tall kid, a kid of two tall parents will tend to be taller than both of them. Well, so therefore the wickedness of the wicked, their children will be more wicked than them. That's what's good. So the generation of my mom was wicked. Their kids were more wicked than them. Therefore, the Lord was showing me in my dream that the wickedness of the children of my generation is gonna be even worse than what my cousin and them are. And I'm like, what in the world does that even look like? In this dream, these kids, these toddlers, these not preteens, they were toddler age and preschoolers. Oh my goodness, the disrespect. They all looked at me like I was a crazy woman. Everything that I spoke did not make sense. I was so mad in this dream. I was so angry at everybody. But the angrier I got, the more they all laughed at me like I was just some shameless, worthless thing. Like even my irritation with the way they are mistreating me was a joke to them. That's how they're raising their children. And their children's consciences are more seared than theirs because these kids have only ever grown up in a climate of this level of disrespect. They're like child soldiers that are taught how to shoot with guns before they can develop a comprehensive moral compass. And so they don't run with their consciences. They get their consciences seared while they're still so young that they can kill from a young age. Pre-teens, the preschoolers and the toddlers in my dream, I couldn't reach them. I couldn't say anything. The way that I react to these kids in waking life is by ignoring more than just hello and goodbye. I don't have conversations with my family more than just that to make sure that I don't get hurt. But in my dream, I was insisting that I should be respected and that I'm making sense. And I even try to use the Bible to correct the status quo. But all these kids were still disrespecting me while their parents, so basically my cousins, were just looking at these kids disrespecting me on some whips. I guess it's what happens. One of the cousins of which said to me, aren't you like a Jehovah's Witness or something? And I was like, and in my dream, my response was, can you be so lukewarm so as to gauge me as a Jehovah's Witness? I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, I'm a Christian. But in my dream, she was trying to suggest that you do a very weird version of religion. It's not Christianity, because we're all Christians. But what you're doing is cultic. And so because it's cultic, you might as well be a Jehovah's Witness. And my cousin in the dream, after that cousin told me, am I not a Jehovah's Witness? And I got upset and said, can you be so lukewarm that you would like literally render me a Jehovah's Witness purely because of how fluffy you are? And then she basically inferred that I belong to a cult. After that whole thing happened, I then went to my cousin, that I understood was causing all of this. In my dream, I had an understanding that she was causing my one cousin to call me a Jehovah's Witness, a cousin of which has also put witchcraft on me, all the kids to disrespect me, and all their parents to laugh at the fact that the kids were laughing at me, and all of them treated me this horribly in the dream. And then I looked at my cousin who has caused all of this in my life, and I was like, you're standing where you are standing, looking at this calamity that you've caused in my life, but very soon you're going to hell. Like, that's what I said in my dream to her. I said to her, you have caused all this disrespect of my person, for the children to laugh at me, and for everybody to treat me like I'm rubbish. But very soon you're about to go to hell. And it was when I said that to her that she suddenly looked at me with like a side eye on like she twitched, like she was scared. She didn't respond, she didn't say anything, but she got actively very scared in my dream. And after, while I was busy telling her that she's about to go to hell and she was scared, the kids were still mocking me, jesting, jeering at me insensitively. Everybody was still walking around me like I ain't Jack, like I stank, in this house that I don't recognize because I've never been invited there. I've never been inside the walls of this house. So this Tortuga is just doing his thing. This chaotic, cantankerous, cancerous family that has fallen apart altogether, that is persecuting a Christian among them. Still, it was still doing its thing. It was still thriving as it thrives itself in its insensitivity. And then I tell this cousin that very soon you're going to hell. And then she twitches and looks at me in the dream. And after she twitched and looked at me in a dream, I then put on some sporting gear, like a workout outfit, right? And I started to jog. Like I went outside to jog, to exercise, so I can give myself endorphins to make me feel better about the sorrow that I'm feeling. Lo and behold, that was God showing me the coping mechanism that I employ in waking life. Vele vele. I exercise. It's my coping mechanism. It is the best thing that helps me. This conversation that I'm having right now is helpful, but the thing that really snaps me out of depression to a point of suicide ideation is exercise. It's exercise. And in my dream, I did just that. I wore some exercise apparel and I jogged. And it was when I was jogging and so therefore regaining my joy. Do you understand? Then one of my cousins was like, Karabo, let's talk. So essentially, they would have watched me suffocate, breathe my last, commit suicide, and done nothing all the way up until I died. And it is only when I found a means to survive that level of depression, it is only when I concocted a strategy to survive that level of abuse, that one of them stood up and was like, hey, let's talk. And that same cousin is the very one that today there's always here in my mom's house, and she's always surveilling my ministry, trying to find things in here to tell on me concerning to my mom, so that dissensions, strife can be sown between my mom and I, like a nosebleed. She's like a nosebleed. The Bible says that just like a person's like messing with a nose and so causing a nosebleed, so too is a person that stirs up contention. This cousin is like a nosebleed in my life. She makes my mom persecute me, and the thing that she uses as a rod on my back to cause my mom to persecute me is always my blog. She's always telling my mom, my videos, my YouTube channel. She's always telling my mom, go listen to what Karabo said. Go listen to what Karabo said, so she can anger my mom until my mom treats me like so much rubbish that I'm facing basically threats of being kicked out or something. Yeah, she's that cousin, right? And her obsession with my ministry is precisely because she is scared that should I get my life back, she's gonna look really bad. They all are gonna look really bad. So she's always just looking to see if I'm anywhere close to being okay again. And ever since I went back to exercise, you all know how I dance. This cousin of mine has been uneasy. And that's why I'm because I have found a way out of this depression. But during the time when I was busy talking about suicide every day, and during the time when I was busy talking about some menace in America that won't leave me alone, standing back waiting to see what's gonna happen. And then when I walked into exercise, That's when, in my dream, when I was jogging, that's when she suddenly wanted to talk to me. But I just kept on jogging. I ignored her. Just as is happening right now in waking life. The same cousin, she's mean to me until she decides that, no, I'm not going to be that mean, because it looks like Karabo might just get her breakthrough. That's the family I belong to. Just a bunch of psychopaths that are duplicitous with double standards. The jog that I took, so I left that cousin behind a mover, right? The one in the kitchen that has stirred up all that insanity in the house. I then jogged, and when I jogged, I found myself in some park. The park of which was half of Johannesburg and half of Cape Town. I then crossed a border where I was in Cape Town all of a sudden. And then I made a decision to basically jog into some cave-like looking structure where a whole bunch of white kids were swimming. And I decided to sit in this cave to take a breather from exercising. And then the cave started to move and it made me dizzy. And then I realized, something demonic is happening here in this cave. So I need to get out. And it was very hard for me to move my body and get out. But as I was getting out, one of the kids that was not swimming, but one of the friends of the kids that was swimming in this dam in Cape Town, I was in Cape Town for whatever reason, okay, found me. It was a girl, a female, a white girl. She was like, oh, hey, hi. And she was smiling at me very kindly. And I was like, hi, okay. And then I got out of the cave. So, how when you bump into a person and then they decide to greet you because you were on your way out or whatever. And you're being decent in order to not be awkward. She greeted me as I was exiting this cave, right? That I managed to survive the heavy occult involvement in it. I managed to survive the dizzy spell. And then I continued to jog, and then I found myself back in Johannesburg again. Literally, Johannesburg was like across the street. It was weird like that. And when then I was in Johannesburg, when I looked back at the cave, all of a sudden it became like a white supremacist. It converted into a white supremacist coven run by a majority of very young white boys and not boys and girls, but males and females. They basically a young secret society made up of kids that were no older than 25. And it was that is what caused me to be dizzy inside that cave, right? There was a lot of occult involvement, and one of the members of which, when I exited out of the cave where I saw their little secret society, instead of being like, what are you doing here? She rather greeted me on some, hey, how you doing? So she was nice to me for whatever reason, right? And then once I jumped over to Johannesburg, I looked back at it and I realized that where I was a dangerous place. It was a secret society that is white supremacist. In other words, it hates black people. And so I was in danger there. But the girl at the beginning of the cave liked me and she greeted me. So when I was on the opposite side, people in my ecosystem where I was jogging, long story short, like some strangers I did not know, but I understood them to be activists against that. They had brought pangas and machetes and basically things that you used to toy and to fight. And I was looking at them on some, you guys are making war with that cave. And when I looked back, I noticed that it was basically like a Hitler establishment for kids in Cape Town. And the Johannesburg side was fighting it. They were fighting it, and they were throwing stones at it, and it was dangerous for anyone in the Johannesburg side or the black side to jump over and go into that territory because they would end up dead. And then I looked at all of these people in the Johannesburg side, and I was like, but I just come from there, and they didn't kill me. If anything, I was greeted. They saw me sitting in the cave. All I felt was a lot of satanic activity. But they didn't do anything to me. They didn't do a ritual. They didn't try to drown me. In and of themselves, they were swimming in filthy waters, but none of them tried to hurt me. And then these guys kept quiet. The ones that were rioting, trying to kill the Cape Town side. And they were like, Yingawe, what is it about you, Karabo, that made them not want to kill you? And then in the dream, what I comprehended the response to that answer was my Christianity, my redemption, the fact that I'm saved. The fact that I'm a Christian, that made all the difference, and the dream ended. So what God was showing me with that is that there is a divide in the country currently. There is a satanic spiritual atmosphere, and that satanic spiritual atmosphere, the division between white people and black people in this country, is caused by the observation by white people of black defeatism that's made them hate black people irrecoverably. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you right now? The defeatism of black people has made white people separate themselves so far from black people that they feel as if they need to be kept at a distance. That's why there was literally, I hopped over the street and I was in Cape Town. But then on this side it was Johannesburg. And the Johannesburg side was upset at the racism of this white supremacist cult. This white supremacist cult and the Cape Town side did nothing to me when I was there. But every other black person that pierced into that environment was in danger. They were basically massacred. They were killed because they had crossed a border they were not supposed to cross. And I understood in my dream that the difference is my Christianity. And the reason why the cult was even brought up from the ground up in Cape Town was because of white people's observation of how defeatist black people are, and therefore how destructive they are of South Africa. How destructive, like proper. Yes, and guys, it's after 8 and I need to hurry. So everything I just explained to you now with my family and how they treated me in the house, even though I'm completely innocent, I am above reproach. I am a whole thriving person, and yet look at how they're treating me. I have made mention of the fact that one of the biggest reasons why white people struggle to overcome racism against black people is because of literally the barbarism that they observe in the black community. I have said that over and over and over and over again. Like, how do you expect somebody to like you, respect you, approve you? How do you also expect somebody to see you for who you are instead of your skin color, when you very typically within your particular racial demographic act in ways that are so destructive to your own people? Black people are so defeatist, and their defeatism is so disgusting to observe by anyone at all that is sober, that it has induced or inspired in some white people a severe hatred for black people, because they think of us as these Neanderthals, these animals that don't know how to respect each other. They can't even take care of their own. They mess up their own families. They destroy the country. How in the world are you consuming all of South Africa's resources, leaving all of us without electricity? Because you're so greedy that you can't even look out for your nation. And who did that? A black government. There is like a whole division happening presently, or it has been happening for a very long amount of time, between black and white people in this country, that has been caused by the observation of white people that wanted to do better, but just simply could not take in their stride the typicality of black people. My experiences at the hands of my family is what annoyed them. And in my dream, they were kind to me, and yet they could not stand all the other blacks for whatever reason. Not because I'm an Uncle Tom, but because of the way that I think. What is the way that I think? Why are you doing this to me? I'm one of your own. I've been standing on the rooftops for a minute saying, black people, you are defeatist. How in the world are you going to live like this and expect anybody to respect you? You feel entitled to respect. You feel entitled to honor, and yet you do this to your own communities. So when white people react to you in this way, you must understand there is a causality to why they appear to be unrecovering, to why they appear to be unrehabilitable, why they appear all these years after apartheid was abolished to not want to get over white supremacy. It's not that they don't want to get over it. It's that upon observing you live your lives, they just can't help but despise you. I despise you, black people, for what you've done to me. You literally made me loathe everything about you, because you destroy where things are perfectly functional. You cannot look at anything and leave it to work. You must unravel everything you see. You are defeatist. You cannot love your own family members. You cannot love your own friends. You can't let people be. You can't allow you can't allow a bride to be happy on her wedding day without first casting a spell on the whole establishment. You cannot allow a married couple to be okay without you coming in between that marriage with witchcraft. You bewitch each other like no man's business, and the rituals you do are tactless. And after you have bewitched, you act in ways so as to make it clear that I told you, no one in my family contacted me to ask me, girl, what's going on? I heard you lost your job. No one. Because they were busy surveilling their witchcraft, and when it was working, they were like, she's falling because I made her fall. This world's citizens are not blind. They make observations. And because it is taboo to mock black people as anything other than a black person, they won't say it on the rooftops, but it is causing a lot of resentment in white people to observe the disgusting behavior of black folk. I have said it over and over and over again. You feel entitled to respect, and yet nothing of you that you are doing is respectable. What is going on with my life right now is an abomination and a trashy travesty that everybody else is observing and wagging their head. Everybody else is making an observation of it, and they're wagging their heads on some, what's going on with these people? They're a circus. And it was only when I told those guys, but I went to the white side. I was even sitting in their cult. And they let me stay there and take a breather from my exercise. And when I was exiting the cave, one of the members of the cave, a white girl, greeted me kindly and let me leave. And I did not sense an iota of violence from these people until I noticed you guys fighting them. And then I realized when I looked back that they're a white supremacist cult. And the only reason they got raised up from the ground was because of their irritation with the black government and black people's defeatism. So the thing that you have done, South African blacks, to the country, you need to take responsibility for it now. You have caused hatred against yourself by white people. You've made it impossible for them to recover from their racism, apartheid. You and you alone have made it hard for South Africans to live, and nobody can say anything against you unless they are in and of themselves black. And so as a black person, allow me to help you understand why even Vicky Momberg, all those years ago, was like, I don't want to see a black cop. Give me a colored, give me an Indian, give me a white any day, but I don't want to talk to no black cops. When you have observed that level of rubbish, Vicky Momberg's mother rose up and said, I did not raise my daughter to hate black people. So I don't know where that's coming from. So if Vicky was not raised that way by her mom, she did not take it by nature. It must have been nurtured in her. The resentment that she had for black people to a point where she did not want to be dealt with by a black cop. And when somebody made a decision to record that whole thing and it trended on Facebook, did its rounds on social media, and she was trended as this like white supremacist buffoon. The Lord has been raising Vicky Momberg in my mind over and over and over again as literally a product of black people's defeatism. Where a child grows up in a white household taught by mom and dad not to be racist, but the kid ends up racist anyway. Why? Because in the school where she attends, at work where she works, the black people in her ecosystem that she observes are just so defeatist that even though she wasn't raised that way, she acquires a resentment for us because of making an observation. I would hate you too. If anything, today I currently resent my own people for doing this to me. You have made me irritated with black folk to a point where I imagine you a typicality. You do a typical thing. Your men are not there. They don't take care of women. They don't protect anybody. Just a bunch of cantankerous buffoons roaming these streets. You go and you grab your daughters and you leave them at the mercy of filthy men. And even when they complain on the rooftops and they talk about being suicidal, you don't even care about standing with them. You don't ask them how you're doing. You don't try to block your own daughter's suicide. What society is content and does not develop a hatred for people like that? When you're sitting back listening to your child crying about suicide ideation and you do nothing to correct the circumstance that's making her want to die, I'd hate you too. I would find you primitive. I would find you detestable as well. The fact that you are literally groveling, waiting, salivating outside of my life to pounce on me. You are trying to marry me off to wicked men. Moms and dads and other cultures would vomit at the prospect of this animal in America standing outside of my life trying to marry me by force. But black people are trying to destroy black women so much that they are literally waiting for them to get taken by a man that's literally sitting salivating with HIV saying, first come, first served. I found you first, and so nobody's gonna have you. When you keep on crying on the rooftops that there is a rapist lurking in your ecosystem and no one tries to rescue the day, and you have to survive so terribly every single day. Such a monster as that's even planning to be in your life in the future, even though you've said no multiple times. I'm sorry, you deserve hatred. You deserve to be despised and gazed upon in disgust by everyone that's looking on. You are disgusting. You deserve to be resented. And it is because of you black people who feel entitled to love and respect everywhere that a whole brand spanking new cult made up of kids no older than 25 has raised up apparently in Cape Town to deal with you. They are literally doing satanic rituals to humiliate black people because they want to exterminate us. So we've got a whole avia beer rearing from the ground from kids that were born no later than 1990. No earlier, sorry. Kids that were born no earlier than 1990, 1995. So they were out of the woods of apartheid. They did not get raised in apartheid South Africa. They were born free. And yet they've started a cult, a satanic cult that is white supremacist against black people because they will not allow their future to be trashed by these defeatist blacks. Why would they do that? It's because they have observed that there's nothing that can be spoken of sobriety. No voice of reason can down black people's tools against each other. You're so destructive that you apparently allegedly deserve extermination. You have literally raised up Verwoerd Ter Blanche from the grave. You have raised Ter Blanche from the grave. There is a whole cult in Cape Town full of white kids trying to exterminate black people. And the members of that cult are no older than 25. Now they're children. You brought it on yourself. It never would have happened if they did not make the kinds of observations that they are making about lives like mine. You have caused a new level of racism in South Africa. Those kids did not try to kill me, meaning that they don't have an original hatred for black people. They just hate what black people do. So you're reversing the country all the way back into apartheid. The next dream that I had was of this American man basically saying in his brain that monster, this pervert that's been pursuing me for a very long time, yeah, that's salivating after me because black people have left me to be at his mercy. He was saying South Africa's cheap. The cost of living there is far better than America. And when I move there, I'm going to be able to buy a good house. This man is so deluded. He is so psychopathic and so crazy. Any parent, upon their daughter being looked at by a man like that, would not only try to locate that man and kill him, but if at all he does not die, he would take his own daughter and hide her far away from something of that nature. A man planning to marry a woman that wants nothing to do with him. He's an occult beast, a rapist, and uyakula, he's HIV positive. He does not care. He doesn't care. Because he keeps on casting spells on everything. The other day I dreamt about him casting spells on my fitness. Because I keep saying I'm going to monetize fitness. Again and again, he keeps casting spells over and over and over. He won't stop. Nothing will ever get him out of that. Why won't he snap out of that? Because he thoroughly feels as if though I have been given him on a silver platter by all of my people. A whole rapist. However, that was set free after COVID-19. A whole, convict, a whole criminal thoroughly thinks that the day's gonna arrive when he moves to South Africa. Properly, why do you think this cult in South Africa, this cult made up of kids in Cape Town? The reason also why they can't stand you is because here it is that black people, you have literally made the ground fertile for some criminal that America can't stand to now come and live in South Africa. You have literally made the ground fertile for South Africa to come and grab one of America's outcasts. One of America's trashy men. One of America's dustbin items. One of America's vomit, puke, is trying to lodge himself in South Africa and is saying that the cost of living here is better because he made an observation during the time when given that I dated him for a brief season, that I was able to buy a lot more with what money he gave me than whatever he ever could in the US. He made an observation of the cost of living in South Africa, and now he is thoroughly planning on buying a more decent house than he ever can in the US. In South Africa, because he thinks the day is going to finally arrive when all of these freebie giving Santa Clauses of South Africa that have given him me, when I'm finally going to be his, because he's going to prosper to curse the living daylights out of me until I'm finally in his house. A man that needs to die is thoroughly planning on moving to my country, a man of which America itself has spat out. Here it is that there is a diaspora, a skills exodus out of South Africa, where some of our biggest and brightest are moving abroad to go and enrich the economies of Western nations. But in South Africa, we are taking all of America's garbage and planting it in our soil. Because any ex-con, any escape convict from a prison cell out of America can successfully just come and live in South Africa, rape South African women, increase the epidemic of gender-based violence in the country against women. This is a wife beater and a murderer, do you understand, that wants to come and live in South Africa. And black people have given him that loophole. Why would I would hate you too. And if I was a white person, I would become a white supremacist too. I would end up literally resenting you because it appears this defeatism to dwell only in your skin type. I would hate you too. Because we already have a bad epidemic of crime in our own country. And an American man that is a criminal in the bane of America's existence wants to come and live in South Africa. They want to come and he wants to emigrate to South Africa. A bad seed. A man that has devastated American women. A man that has slapped silly American women. A man that has broken American laws and seen American jail cells wants to come and live in South Africa. If America can have such hard-knock border laws and be so xenophobic so as to resent the living daylights out of all these Mexicans flying through their borders, all these Colombians, all these people from South America and everywhere else, they keep roaming around. Texas, it's like a whole issue with the border, to a point where it's caused xenophobia in Americans, where it is that the borders are not properly manned. And anybody's just like coming in, and it's causing human trafficking, drug trafficking at an exploitative level to the US. And so now they don't know what to do with themselves. They're pulling out their hairs. So now even if you're an honest Mexican, Americans look at you like you might potentially stank. Why? Because so many dishonest Mexicans are coming into America. Yet a country that is that xenophobic against other nations thoroughly is trying to give us one of their dirty like rats, one of their dirty little cloths, one of their filth, is trying to come to our country. And given how xenophobic you are, South Africa, I find it ironic. I find it duplicitous. I find it hypocritical that you're not detested by the prospect of this little border crosser, this illegal immigrant. I find it like disturbing and hypocritical that you don't find him a menace worthy of you guys raising your rifles and shooting him before he can even cross the border. I don't know why you don't just knock him out. I don't know. Instead, you're standing back because you are so focused on your gender-based violence, and you are so focused on forcing me to do what I don't want to do, because you're so focused on your witchcraft rituals that you can't even protect your country from an illegal immigrant that's thoroughly looking at the cost of living in South Africa because he imagines that he's going to forcefully arrange marriage, a South African woman, so he can come and lodge in a country that has not known his wickedness, because his own country can't stand him. His own nation wants nothing to do with him. And he's making plans to come and live in South Africa because he thinks the cost of living of South Africa is better than America. It is no wonder there's a whole cult raising up in Cape Town that's white supremacist. Because would you not want to go and grab a rifle and shoot dead some man that's trying to come in because of black defeatism? You want to marry your daughter to Ofgankani. You want to force people to get HIV. You want to force people to do things they don't want to do. You want to force people to compromise and settle and worship demons. You want to force people to do all manner and kinds of silly freaking dark stuff. And so you are literally happy to take any man in a South African woman's stride, even if it's a filthy American that America has spat out. Thank you very much for all that. You've now raised up a whole new generation of white kids that are going to hate black kids. If it was not for your defeatism, that never would have happened. You have literally raised a cult up from the ground in Cape Town, and I'm telling you, it's literally there. It's still young, it's in its infancy. The kids are not so hateful that they can't stand all black people, but it's going to get to a point where they're like, via beer. It's going to get to a point where they're like, ter blanche, do you understand? Verwoord. It's going to get to a point where they're so evil that they will literally come up with like satanic rituals where they will be hanging black people like the KKK on crosses to stab them to death and just watch them die for sport. The day's going to come when those level of killings are happening in Cape Town against black people because you have literally raised up a cult of kids that are going to get so violent that all of your sons are going to start to pass away insofar as they cross the border of Johannesburg and then drive all the way Garden Route to Cape Town. They're gonna get killed off the aeroplane in Jafela Boo. Some little South African version of the KKK is gonna shoot them down. And guess who will have raised that KKK up from the ground? You, black people. You would have inspired white kids to take matters into their own hands because their parents were too cowardly to do something about the defeatism of the black government and black people. Watch the space. As for my cousin, all the best. Dream on, girl. I am never going to compromise. The thing that you have caused here, you're dying, and you know it. Mara, your perpetual insanity in this regard, is setting a future up for your children where they're going to get massacred when they fly to Cape Town because they're black. And a future for your children where they're going to have no moral compass to look at. Why? Because mama was so evil that they became even more evil than mom. All the best. I'm out.